Hi, I'm Daniel Linder, marriage family therapist, addiction specialist, and relationship trainer, practicing in the San Francisco Bay Area for over 30 years. And I also created the relationship model of addiction. And what I want to be is I want to be your guiding light. I want to be an angel on your shoulder to help you move through this transition of recovery, which, as I've said before, is out of unhealthy relationships that support addiction and don't allow a healthy place for yourself, that just suppresses yourself, and into healthy relationships that support recovery and self-growth and self-emergence. So again, some of the basic principles that we were talking about, just so you have a context of where we're going to go today, is the most important relationship is with yourself. That's one, the thing that we've been talking about. But also it's important to know that all of this is about a paradigm shift from other-centered ways of relating and being in a relationship to self-centered. And, you know, we talked about the emotional withdrawal that occurs with that and some of the challenges with setting and maintaining boundaries. And today, I want to throw up another principle. I may have mentioned this before, but this is going to be really relevant today. And that is that what a relationship consists of. A relationship consists of two separate autonomous entities, two separate selves, me and you. So where this is leading right now is that I want to introduce to you another very, very key mindful practice, a mindfulness practice whenever you're relating, in a relating situation or in a relationship. You want to understand that there are three areas, there are three distinctions that you want to make, and this is the mindfulness process, being aware of these three different areas. And one is when there's stuff and issues coming up, conflicts and issues and difficult feelings coming up, you want to be able to distinguish between what is the other person, what is the other person's stuff, what is your person's stuff, and where do you meet in a relationship. Okay. So whenever you're in a relating situation and dealing with conflict with someone, you want to become mindful about whose problem is whose and whose problem is whose to fix. So for instance, here's a situation. This is one situation that I dealt with recently, and there's a multitude of variations and examples of this kind of situation that comes up all the time. But in this situation, this couple had a miscommunication, and the guy, let's call him Joe, responded very, very angrily and got really upset and indignant and accused his partner of being really disrespectful and insensitive. But there were other people around, and he kind of made a big scene and brought attention to her and to them, and it didn't really feel good to her. So he had a jealous response and, excuse me, and he overreacted in a way that did not make her feel good. It kind of dumped on her. However, what happened for her is that she just kind of recoiled and withdrew into herself, feeling bad about herself, feeling like she caused this again, or that she's not good enough, it must have been her fault, and just felt helpless and lonely, helpless and hopeless about her relationships, because I imagine that her earlier rejection or abandonment from family of origin experience and her overall experience in relationships have been discouraging and disappointing to her. So she just felt very, very hopeless and badly about herself. So how does this mindful practice work out? What her challenge is to realize that his reaction to her was an overreaction, and that was his problem. He has his own insecurity, his own jealousy issues, his own inadequacy and insecurity issues, but they're his issues, and they're not for her to deal with. So to make that distinction, that's his issues, not for her to deal with. Also, the mindfulness practice would include looking at her own process and where she's coming from, and to begin to connect the dots that her personalized reaction of feeling not good enough, her fault, hopeless, lonely, and desperate to be in relationship, and how she takes responsibility for everything that happens in a relationship. She takes that on, but to realize that she has her own process, she has her own wounds, her own hurts, her own issues from the past. So if she can identify them, that would indicate to her that it's her responsibility to work on those issues on her own and not let them spill over into the relationship. And then the third part of that mindful practice would be establishing, well, what to do in the relationship now. How does this relate to Alice and Joe? And what we talked about was that she would now need to let Joe know that the way he handled his jealousy, or the way he related to her, how he conducted himself, was really not acceptable to her. She didn't feel safe. There wasn't really, she felt disrespected, and her level of trust was shaken. And what she really needs from him is, when he's upset with her about anything, to be able to talk to her in a way that she could handle it, in a way that she could receive it. So in a way that where they can achieve some level of understanding, because that's a key part of a relationship. So within the guise of the relationship, that where they meet would be around issues around respect, around trust, around accepting each other, and around understanding and communicating what they need from each other in order to achieve understanding. So here we have it broken down. This is an example. We broke it down. What was his, what's hers, and what's ours. It's a key mindfulness practice. So hope this makes sense to you. Hope you could use this in your relationships and practice this awareness. Just notice that whenever something comes up, a conflict or an issue comes up and feelings come up, that there's what's the other person's, what's yours, and it's the responsibility of both of you to deal with your own stuff on your own individually without letting it carry over into the relationship, and then to bring what you're needing and wanting into a dialogue together so you can have some understanding. So until then, I'll see you next time, and know that the quality of your relationships is the quality of your life.